The present moment. If you want to experience the supernatural in your own life, by healing your body, creating new opportunities you could never been imagined before, and having transcendent, mystical experiences, you first need to master concept of the present moment, the eternal now. There's a lot of talk about. There's a lot of talk about being present or being in the now these days. While most people understand the basics of what matters, not to think about the future or live in the past, I want to offer you to a completely different understanding of the concept. It's going to require that you get beyond the physical world, including your body, your identity, and your environment, and even beyond time itself. This is where you turn possibility into reality. After all, if you don't get beyond who you think you are and the way you've been conditioned to believe the world works, it's not possible to create a new life or a new destiny. So, in a very real sense, you have to get out of your own way, transcending the memory of yourself as an identity, and allow something greater than you, something mystical, to take over. In this chapter, I'm going to explain how that works. First, let's take a look. Let's take a look at how the brain functions. When any neurological tissue in the brain or our body is activated, it creates mind. Consequently, from neuroscientific understanding, mind is the brain in action. For instance, you have a specific mind to drive your car. You have another mind to take a shower. You have a different mind when you sing a song or listen to music. You use a specific level of mind to execute each of the complex functions because you have probably done each of these tasks in 1,000 of times, so your brain turns on in a very specific when you do any of them. In other words, the neurons that fire together and accomplish the task can become more wired together. For the most part, your brain is product of the past. When you experience something new, your senses write the story neurologically in the brain, and even more neurons come together to take even more enriched connections, upgrading your brain even further. Experiences not only enhance the brain's theory, but they also create emotions. Think of emotion as a chemical residue from past experiences or a chemical feedback. The stronger the emotional quantum from the event in your life, the more the experiences leaves a lasting impression in your brain. That's how long-term memories are formed. So, if learning means to make new connections in your brain, memories are when you maintain those connections. The more you repeat a thought, choice, behavior, experience, or emotion, the more those neurons fire and work together, and the more there was a certain long-term relationship. Therefore, when an experience changes how you normally feel chemically, heightens your attention to what caused it. You will associate a specific person or thing with where your body is at the particular time and place. That's how you create memories and by interacting with the outer world. It's just safe to say that the only piece in the past actually existed in your brain and in your body. Let's take a closer look at what happens biologically inside your body when you think, a thought, or feel an emotion. I'm literally feel tired of this, so I'm going to choose another book. The power of now. The fact is that in a very similar way, virtually everyone hears a voice and separate voices in their head all the time. The involuntary thought process that you don't realize you have the power to stop, continuous inner monologues and dialogues. Well, that's not much different from what you and all other normal people do, except that you don't do it out loud. The voice comments, speculates, judges, compares, complains, likes, dislikes, and so on. The voice is necessarily relevant to the situation you find yourself and at that time. It may be receiving a recent or distant past, or rehearsing or imagining possible future situations. Here it often imagines things going wrong and negative outcomes. This is called worry. Sometimes this soundtrack is accompanied by visual image or mental movies. Even if a voice is relevant to the situation at hand, it will interpret in terms of the past. This is because the voice belongs to you, a conditioned mind, which is a result of all your past history as well as an all collective cultural mindset you inherited. So you see and judge the present through the eyes of the past and get a totally distorted view of it. It is not uncommon for the voice to be a person's own worst enemy. Many people live within a tormentor in their head that continuously attacks and punishes them and drains them from the vital energy. It is the cause of unfold misery and unhappiness as well as a disease. The good news is that you free yourself from your mind. This is the only true liberation. You can take the first step right now. Start listening to the voice in your head as often you can. Pay particular attention to any repetitive thought patterns. Those old gramophone records that have been playing in your head perhaps for many years. This is what I mean by watching the thinker, which is another way of saying listen to the voice in your head and be there as a witness in presence. When you listen to that voice, listen to it impartially. That is to say, do not judge. Do not judge and condemn what you hear, and for doing so would mean that the same voice has come in again through the back door. You will soon realize that there is the voice, and here I am listening to it, watching it. This I am realization. This sense of your own presence is not a thought. It arises from beyond the mind. As you listen to the thought, you feel a conscious presence, your deeper self, behind and underneath of thought, as it were. The thought then loses its power over you and quickly subsides. Because you are no longer energizing the mind through the identification with it. This is the beginning of the end of involuntary and compulsive thinking. In this way, you draw consciousness away from the mind activity and create a gap of no mind in which you are highly alive and aware but not thinking. This is the essence of meditation. Pay close attention every step, every moment, even your breathing. Be totally present, or when you wash your hands and pay attention to all the senses and perception associated with an activity. The sound and the feel of the water, the movement of your hands and the scent of the soap and so on. Or when you get into your car, after close the door, pause for seconds and observe the flow of your breath. Become aware of silence, but the powerful sense of presence. This is one certain criterion by which you can measure your success in the practice, the degree of peace that you feel within. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. Your mind is an instrument, a tool. It is there to be used for a specific task, and when the task is completed, you lay it down. As it is, I would say about 80 to 90% of most people's thinking is not only repetitive and useless, but because of its dysfunctional and often negative nature, much of it is also harmful. Observe your mind and you will find this is true. This is to be true. It causes serious leakage of vital energy. 맞아요. That's true. This kind of compulsive thinking is actually addiction. What characterizes an addiction? Quite simply this. You no longer feel that you have the choice to stop. It seems stronger than you. It also gives you a false sense of pleasure. Pleasure that invariably turns into pain. Because you believe that you would cease to be if you stopped thinking. As you grow up, you form a mental image of who you are based on your personal and cultural conditioning. You may call this a phantom self, the ego. It consists of the mind activity and can only be kept in going through constant thinking. The term ego means different things to different people, but when I use it here, it means a false self, creating an unconscious identification with the mind. To the ego, the present moment hardly exists. Only past and future is considered important. This is sort of reversal of the truth accounts for the fact that is the ego mode. The mind is so dysfunctional. It is always concerned with keeping the past alive, because without it, for you, it constantly projects itself into the future to ensure its continuous survival and to seek some kind of release and fulfillment there. It says one day, when this, that, or the other happens, I'm going to be okay, happy at peace. The present moment holds the key to liberation, but you cannot find the present moment as long as you are your mind. I don't want to lose my ability to analyze and discriminate. I wouldn't mind learning to think more clearly in a more focused way, but I don't want to lose my mind. The gift of thought is the most precious thing we have. Without it, we would just another species of animals. Will be destroyed by the mind, which hasn't grown into a monster. Thinking and consciousness are not synonymous. Thinking is not only the small aspects of the consciousness. Thought cannot exist without consciousness, but consciousness does not need to thought. In the enlightenment state, you still use your thinking mind when needed, but in a much more focused and effective way than before. You use it mostly for practical purposes, but you are free of the involuntary internal dialogue, and there is an inner stillness. When you do use your mind, and particularly when a creative solution is needed, you oscillate every few minutes or so between a thought and stillness, between the mind and no mind. No mind is consciousness without thought. Only in that way is it possible to think creatively, because only in that way does a thought have a real power. Thought alone, when it is no longer connected with much vaster realm of consciousness, quickly becomes barren, insane, destructive. The mind is essentially a survival machine, attack and defense against other minds, gathering, storing, and analyzing information. This is what it is good at, but it is not at all creative. Whether they know it or not, created from a place of no mind, from inner stillness. The mind then gives it a form of creative impulse or insight. It wasn't through the mind, through thinking, emotion, the body's reaction to your mind. Mind in the way I use the word. It's not just thought. It includes your emotion as well as all unconscious and mental emotional reactive patterns. Emotion arises at the place where the mind and the body meet. It is the body reactions to your mind, or you might say a reflection of you mind in the body. For example, the attack thought and a hostile thought will create a buildup of energy in the body that we call anger. Also, the body isn't getting ready to fight. The thought that you're being threatened physically and psychologically causes the body to contract, and this is the physical side of the what we call fear. Research has shown that strong emotions and even cause changes in the biochemistry of the body. These biochemical changes represent the physical and mental aspect of the emotion. Of course, you're not usually conscious of all your thought patterns, and it is often only through watching your emotions that you can bring them into awareness. The more you're identified with your thinking, your likes and dislikes, judgment and interpretations, which is to say, the less present you are as an watching consciousness, the stronger the emotion and energy charge will be, whether you're aware of it or not. If you cannot feel your emotions, if you are cut off from them, you will eventually experience them on a purely physical level as in a physical problem or a symptom.